Russian front in Ukraine, which is 40 to 60 miles deep, is now on fire. A blaze or a warehouse in Krystalny, dozens of depots in Donetsk, equipment at an airfield in Melitopol, storage facilities in Kherson and Novokakhovka, and even Chernobyivka is afire again. The next day after Russian forces took Lysychansk, a huge divisional warehouse in Popasna burned down. Had this happened a couple of days before, perhaps the Russians would have had nothing to take Lysychansk with. Burning away are not just ammunition depots, but the Russian offensive. Burning away is Stalin's war strategy inherited by Russian generals, which means advancing with cannon fodder following a rolling barrage and covering large areas with random and aimless airstrikes. After taking Lysychansk, the Russians ventured an offensive along the entire front line right after Putin declared an operational pause, but it stalled immediately for lack of munitions. Retired Colonel Roman Svitin, a former Ukrainian military pilot, has estimated the share of destroyed Russian ammunition depots at 15 to 20%. Obviously, the Ukrainian army will not start an offensive until it destroys all the depots. It goes without saying that the depots are being destroyed with Himars, namely M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems, mounted on a standard U.S. Army M1140 truck frame, which carries one pod with 6 GMLRS missiles. An alternative version of the launcher can carry one ATACMS missile with a range of up to 300 kilometers, although such missiles have not yet been supplied to Ukraine. Himars boasts a large number of advantages. Firstly, it is mobile like a regular truck. This means that Himars can move along regular roads, reach a launch site, fire missiles, and then flee immediately at 80 kilometers per hour. It's hard to take it out with a retaliatory strike. Secondly, the GMLRS missiles, with G for guided, used by Himars, are GPS guided and strike a target with pinpoint accuracy. This is what makes it different from the Smerch, Grad, and Uragan systems, which the Russians use to strike large areas. Thirdly, again, unlike Russian Smerch systems, Himars does not need a loading machine. It simply approaches a pod previously loaded with missiles and lying on the ground, picks it up, and, voila! It is ready to be used. The use of Himars nullifies the entire logistics of the Russian army. The Russian army typically fights as follows: it sets up huge warehouses 60 kilometers away from the front line and delivers everything from those warehouses by trucks. If it's located 60 kilometers away, this means one truck can make 3 rides a day. If it's 90 kilometers, it's 2 rides, and if it's 120 kilometers, it's only 1. The Russian army can advance only if its trucks can make 3 rides a day, Ukrainian presidential advisor Alexei Orestovich says. The deployment of Himars confirms 2 points I've already formulated before. Firstly, modern network-centric warfare always beats Stalin's 1941-era creeping barrage plus cannon fodder concept. And secondly, Putin has failed to turn this war into trench warfare, which he sought to do, because trench warfare implies that your opponent can see only the front line and cannot strike key military infrastructure targets behind it accurately enough. What kind of a military machine has Putin built if 4 Himars systems can put an end to it? Orestovich says sarcastically. Truth be told, Ukraine already has a bit more than just 4 Himars systems. Oles Danov, a retired colonel, military expert and former member of the Ukrainian Armed Forces General Staff, told me that Ukraine has 17 American Himars systems in their analogs, and Orestovich confirmed that they had actually arrived about a week before this was announced officially. The US employed Himars in Afghanistan, in Syria, and in Iraq, but the results of that use were not nearly as destructive as in Ukraine. Why? It's very simple. To be successful, Himars requires 3 things: a clear-cut front line, good roads on the one side of this line, and huge depots on the other. None of this was in place in Syria, and driving there was quite unsafe. Nor were there clearly identified targets, as ISIS did not build gigantic stocks of munitions while preparing to advance with a huge number of troops following a rolling barrage. Himars and Russian military tactics have proven to be a perfect match. Ukrainian forces use Himars mainly at nighttime. During the day, they are most likely hidden in some hangars to be invisible to Russian Orlan drones. Firing at night has another advantage. Night firing minimizes the risk of striking civilians, says Roman Svitin. This also distinguishes the Ukrainian army's tactic from Russia's, which fires missiles at daytime. How does Ukrainian intelligence know what to aim Himars at? How does it identify a Russian ammunition depot? Again, owing to network-centric warfare. Military expert Pavel Luzin believes the Ukrainian armed forces are using regular commercial satellite imagery provided by Pantsir Technologies. Pantsir takes photos twice a day, and using special software and big data, you can easily detect where depots are located and where military trucks travel, says Luzin. The wonderful answer is, Russia has no access to Pantsir services or any other commercial satellite images that would enable it to conduct net-centric warfare. You are likely to exclaim now, but Russia has its own satellites. That is true, it does. Those are military satellites that can take photos from space once in a few weeks. Russia also has research satellites, which used to be assembled of Western components. The US banned those components from being sold to Russia by instituting special legislation after Russia meddled in American elections, and now all of the research satellites exhausted their service lives. The last one deorbited in December 2021. Russia also has 3 BARS satellites, but this is far from enough. That is, Russia identifies its targets at random, and yet it regularly misses even them. In other words, Russia is again losing, not just to the Western military system, but to the Western military system combined with civilian technologies. Commercial Pantsir satellites, which were designed for absolutely different purposes, easily solve a problem that appears unsolvable for the whole Russian satellite constellation, on which billions have been wasted. Similarly, Elon Musk's civilian Starlink equipment proved invulnerable to Russian electronic warfare systems, on which billions have been wasted, as well. And the Ukrainian Krapiva artillery fire control system assembled of civilian tablet computers, civilian walkie-talkies, and cheap civilian drones significantly enhanced the efficiency of Ukrainian artillery back when both parties used old Soviet cannons and howitzers. The entire Russian defense industry operates based on the premise that there are some perfect super-secret military technologies which have no parallels in the civilian industry. However, the real modern world is quite different. Its highest quality technologies, devices, and solutions are applied in billions of products. Such technologies are civilian by definition, as the military does not need billions of items. The defense market is just not that big. This erases the borderline between civilian and military technology in the West. The top 10 largest contractors of the US Department of Defense sell 54% of their products on the open market. In Russia, by contrast, companies that cannot compete on the open market win closed tenders for military supplies. This automatically makes their technologies uncompetitive. They simply lie about their achievements. And this becomes obvious only when their products, after all, have to compete with Western ones on the most competitive of all markets, a battlefield. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to support Warthog Defense, please become our member and get early access to new videos, exclusive members-only videos, and become administrator in comment section. The membership link is in the description.
Rescues every day. We had a guy last week at 6 rescues in 6 days. He's doing the job every day.